Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani, India's two wealthiest men, have decided to take on Indian fintech startups head-on. Just last week, Jio Finance, the fintech arm of Reliance, launched their app on the Google Play Store. And with Jio Finance, Reliance wants to disrupt the entire fintech space in India. They're building a super app for fintech in the country, and they're introducing insurance, digital payments, and lending all on one platform. But that's not all, because just 2 months back, Jio Finance also partnered with BlackRock, the world's largest asset management company, to launch their own mutual fund business in India. Apart from that, though, there are also reports of Jio launching their own soundboxes to compete with Paytm and PhonePe's soundbox business. Jio Finance is basically taking on every Indian fintech company from PhonePe to PolicyBazaar to Zerodha and Grow with one single app, but they're not alone here. In past videos, we have talked about Adani's potential entry into the fintech space with their own super app called Adani One. And while their entry into the space isn't fully confirmed yet, they have already launched co-branded credit cards in partnership with ICICI Bank and Visa through Adani One. But I still feel like these super apps are just the start for these two companies when it comes to their fintech ambitions, because the space is expected to be worth $150 billion in India by 2025. And in spite of this, neither Jio nor Adani have a significant chunk of that market at the moment. This is still a pretty volatile industry, and so I'm guessing Jio and Adani have just been sitting back and watching all of the Indian fintech startups beating each other up, and then regulations keep changing, and they're just waiting for things to calm down so that they can swoop in and take control. I mean, Indian fintech startups took years to build their dominance in different verticals. While PhonePe is dominating the UPI payment space, Zerodha and Grow are winners in the stockbroking industry, and PolicyBazaar is the leader in the insurance space, but all of that could be at stake now. But I think the only question that I'm still asking here is, can the super app strategy actually succeed? Super apps like WeChat and Alipay have been successful in China, but none of the super apps have worked that well in India so far. So leave a comment down below and let me know, do you think that Reliance and Adani could change that? And also, if you're a regular user of any fintech app, would you rather switch to a super app and get everything all in one place, especially if it was from a company like Reliance or Adani? Now, speaking of disrupting existing ecosystems, I recently sat down with the co-founder of FanCode, and this is a company that's completely disrupted India's sports media industry. One of the fascinating insights from that conversation was how FanCode took a page out of Hindustan Unilever's playbook and introduced sachet pricing for sports streaming. So basically, instead of subscribing for an entire month like most OTTs, like for example Netflix, or just paying for an entire season, viewers could just watch one match, the match that they actually cared about watching. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can find the full podcast up here. And it was also a pretty special episode for us because it's the first time we've ever collaborated with Google Play on a project like this. But anyways, let's move on with the news because it looks like Boat's wearables business is sinking. So as you probably already know, Boat is the biggest wearable brand in India, but the company now wants to scale down their wearables business. Why? Well, even though Boat is still the market leader in the segment, their market share is actually decreasing consistently. They had a 39.3% market share in 2021, and that's come down to just 26% in FY23. And the reason behind this decline is players like Noise and Firebolt who are eating away at their business. And there's been huge demand for smart wearables in India, and so Indian brands are catering to this demand by importing cheaper Chinese products and selling them on the Indian market. This, of course, has led to a sharp decline in the average selling price for these products, to the point where Boat's co-founder Samir Mehta has said that the ASPs in this category have declined by 68 to 70% in the last 2 years. And for a while, Boat was trying to play the same game by reducing prices of their own products, but they realized that this just wasn't sustainable in the long term as they were sacrificing revenue for volume. Boat has always been seen as an affordable brand, but it looks like they're planning on building more premium products, and they want to focus more on their audio category, which is actually responsible for 80% of their revenue. But the question is, can they pull this off in this current landscape? Now, while Boat is planning on scaling down their wearables business, Rebel Foods' own Slay Coffee is completely shutting down their cloud kitchen business. And this is coming to us, by the way, from a report by The Arc. So Slay Coffee has been in the coffee cloud business since 2015. But according to this report, their revenues for the October to December 2023 quarter have almost halved to 1.4 crore rupees from 2.7 crore rupees in 2022 for the same quarter. And so the company is now planning on operating exclusively as a retail business, opening cafes, and Slay Coffee is basically going from online to offline. Now, speaking of businesses that have made dramatic shifts from online to offline, let's talk a little bit about Unacademy. Unacademy's founder, Gaurav Munjal, took to X to announce the launch of their language learning app. And this is a dramatic shift from their core exam-focused learning products, and Gaurav says that this is actually their first truly global product. Now, at the moment, Unacademy's language learning app only supports Spanish, but Gaurav is claiming that they're planning on launching French next, and they also have plans to add more regional and international languages. And he's also addressing the elephant in the room, saying that the learning experience on Unacademy is very different from that of Duolingo. While Duolingo focuses on gamification, Unacademy actually makes you learn a language, according to Gaurav. Now, this is a pretty tall claim coming from a brand new app, while Duolingo has been around for a very long time. But even though they don't have a lot of reviews on Google's Play Store right now, the ones that are there are pretty encouraging. Now, like I said, Gaurav is looking at this as a global opportunity for Unacademy, but another company that's actually in the process of going global is BluSmart. After disrupting the duopoly of Uber and Ola in India, EV ride-hailing startup BluSmart Mobility has launched their premium all-electric limousine service in the UAE. This is actually their first international expansion, and also it's the UAE's first all-electric limousine service, and the company will start their chauffeur services in Dubai, and they're going to be using a fleet of Audi's e-tron cars. Now, if you're planning on flying to Dubai anytime soon, it's possible that your flight will be booked through a company called Ixigo, which is in the process of going public. The IPO price is set at 88 to 93 rupees per share, and the company is looking to raise a total of 740 crore rupees through this IPO. 120 crore rupees will come from the sale of fresh equity shares, and the remaining 620 crore rupees will come from the sale of shares by existing shareholders. Now, this company was actually started all the way back in 2007, but as of FY23, they brought in revenue of 501 crore rupees with 23 crore rupees in profit. But here's where things get impressive. In the first 9 months of FY24, the company already brought in 491 crore rupees in revenue, and they've almost tripled their profits to 68 crore rupees. All right, next up in the news, it's been a couple of weeks since I talked about Byju's, and there's no good news, but let me catch you up. So the first little piece of news, which isn't really news, but it did happen recently, although everyone already knows that Byju's valuation has plummeted massively, but Baron Capital, which has stake in Byju's, has reduced Byju's valuation to just $24 million. However, this news actually showed up on my radar when I saw this post from Dr. Aniruddha Malpani on X. And he actually talks about Byju's valuation being in the negative. And for a second, I didn't really get it, but then it made sense. If you just take into account their losses of over $1 billion in FY23 and the debt of $1.2 billion, and I don't really have any idea what the situation is with the loan at this point, if it's been paid fully, partially, or not at all. I haven't been keeping up to date with this, but the company actually has a net valuation of negative $2 billion, which is just insane to think about. This is a negative valuation situation. Now, while Baron Capital has cut Byju's valuation, they've actually increased Swiggy's valuation from $12.1 billion to $15.1 billion. And this, of course, is a great boost of confidence for their investors, especially considering the fact that Swiggy is planning their IPO right now. All right, now let's move on to the funding news segment for today's video. This week, Indian startups raised $327 million, which is quite a bit higher than last week's $230.5 million. And let's take a look at some of the companies that raised funds this week. First of all, we have Asia's largest eyewear retailer, Lenskart. They raised $200 million in their secondary round, valuing the company at $5 billion. Next up, we have a Pune-based digital lending platform that lets young professionals get instant cash called Fibe. They raised $90 million in their Series E round. After that, we have Noida-based online astrology platform AstroTalk, which lets you book appointments with astrologers, and they raised $9.5 million in their extended Series A round, valuing them at $300 million. Following this, we have Bengaluru-based mobile and web automation and testing platform Test Sigma, and they raised $8.2 million. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. Again, if you want to check out the latest Millionaire Mondays podcast episode that I did with Yannick Golasso, the founder of FanCode, you can find that in the top right corner of your screen. But either way, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.